everybody? I'm Jacob Mangley, and you are watching Comics Corner right here on Technicolor Muck. And this month is LBGTQ month. And to celebrate, I put together a little list of the top 10 LBGTQ comics characters. Now this is as with most lists on the internet, this is personal. This is my opinion. These are the characters I like the most. And if you have it, and if one of your favorites isn't on there, I'm sorry, but these are mine. Mine. There's no need to complain about it. You can make your own list if you want. Celebrate your own characters. There's more than enough gay to go around this month. And by all means, all of the characters we love should be celebrated. But since I don't have 30 hours to go over all 55 characters I considered for this list, I'm going over the top 10. The ones I want to give a moment in the sun on a month all about them. With that in mind, let's go. Number 10, Jamie McJack. Jack from the webcomic Girls with Slingshots. I will cover Girls with Slingshots in its own video at some point when I'm not having a cough attack. Jesus. Yes. It is a really good webcomic that also taught me a lot. It's not even meant to be educational. It just covers a lot of topics about sexuality, has a wide variety of characters, and while a good chunk of the side characters aren't all that interesting, and the main cast, for the most part, is all incredibly well built, incredibly funny, and it's just a really good strip. And it led me to another strip that we'll get through too much later in the list, that will also likely get a retrospective at some point. And yes, it's a retrospective because while Girls with Slingshots could probably be covered in a few separate reviews, that one's 10 years long almost and growing. Yep. But back on topic, Jamie's one of the two main characters. The other, Hazel's her best friend, who's neurotic. I want to say borderline, but yeah, she's pretty much an alcoholic. It's just mostly played for laughs. But we're not here to talk about Hazel. Jamie's a big, beautiful woman who sells flowers, is unabashed in her sexuality, and early on thinks she had a one-night stand with a woman and decides to explore that sexuality. While the one-night stand with another main character, Thea, who naturally is also gay and is also a really good character, and when I do set a review on the strip, I will go into more detail. But since there's a lot to get to, the point is she realizes she's bi, but doesn't really explore it. Then then in order to try and help her love life or something, it's been a while. Well, I've reread some strips. I haven't reread this set in a bit. She sends a girl named Erin to spy on her. Yeah, you see where this is going. A Three's Company style double date where, due to Hazel thinking Erin's a man due to her name sounding the same when said out loud, even though this is a comic strip, but since it doesn't break the law, it's not a thing, I'll stop talking. She wears a Charlie Chaplin getup. I just love that storyline. I'm sorry, it's just pure gold. I've reread it at least 2 times. I haven't reread a lot of the strip that hasn't been repeating daily. It's just that hilarious. The point is, despite being not homophobic, more just kinda uncomfortable with dealing with gay subjects, Hazel's fully supportive, not an asshole about it, And the strip fully explores Jamie's sexuality. The thing is, it doesn't change who she is as a character. She's vivacious, she's nice, she's kind, she's a good source of information. She has to be a troll sometimes, but she generally means the best for people and tries to help them. Sometimes she doesn't succeed, but that's life. She's a good, kind person. And what also puts her on this list is it doesn't really is that honestly it explores a kind of sexuality you just don't see a lot. She is bisexual, but she prefers men. She just likes the penis. And her girlfriend Erin is asexual, but is fully accepting of that. That as long as she doesn't bring the guys back to their place, basically. Which is an entirely fair thing. She knows that her partner doesn't need something she can't give her. And since she's fine with it. Not everyone's going to be fine with it, and the strip tackles that too. I won't go into everything Jamie's ever done. Again, I want to cover the strip itself at some point, but she's a fairly great character with a great personal arc that tackles an issue you don't see often. But even on her own, she's just a fun character who's fully deserving of a spot on this list. Next up, Joe from the comic book from the Boom Studios Lumberjanes, which is also going to probably get a review. I'll admit, I really loved Lumberjanes at first, but it has kind of gone down with time, in my opinion. The art fluctuates a bit between decent and really good. It just depends on who's drawing the particular art. A few of the rotating artists can be kind of just to me personally. It's still a really good comic book. I highly recommend you check it out. And Joe is sadly the only trans character on my list. It's nothing against trans people. There just really aren't that many transsexual characters in comics, even in the wide world of webcomics. Yeah, it's just a fact of life. Nothing less, nothing more. But I didn't put Joe on here because of tokenism. I put her on here because she's a genuinely neat character. She's the genius of the team, but also can be the heart sometimes. And her being transgender only kind of crops up once when she's dealing with someone who may want to become a woman himself. Or at least is gender fluid. She's a science person on the team, fairly likable. Well, a good planner, and the reason she's really this low on the list is that her personality she doesn't really have as much character growth as the other Janes. Outside of the arc I mentioned, where she gets jealous because her best friend's spending time with the boy, and it's highly implied she's attracted to her. And I may just be reading too much into it, shipping goggles and all that, but I honestly think that interpretation just makes it all the better. But more to the point, it's just treated casually. She's a really good character who's fun and makes cake making robots at one point because they're trying to learn how to make cakes, and just a great character who maybe doesn't have the most complex of personality. She's the genius of the team, and also also tries to bring them up when they're at their lowest. Really, that's, I think, where the most of her personality comes. While there may be other people who could vie for the position as leader of the team or action, she's the one who often comes up with the solution to the problem, or comes up with some way to help someone pass their emotional problems. She's true and well the heart of this team, and true and well deserving of this list. Next up, Shatterstar! X Factor is one of my favorite comics of all time. So yeah, of course one of the characters from that was going to end up on this list. That doesn't mean that Shatterstar's not fucking awesome. Starting out as one of Rob Liefeld's 60,000 crappy, grrr, I am raging extreme, I am raging extreme and have so many pouches. Look at my belts, look at my belts, look at my belts as I kill people with swords and stuff because I'm extreme. To the point where Peter David, whose career can be, especially when it comes to X-Men related comics, can basically be summed up as fixing up characters no one else wants a part of outright said apparently towards the beginning of X Factor he wasn't going to use him. As you can tell by the fact I brought up X Factor at all, that didn't last. Though credit where credit is due, from what I've heard, even if I haven't read much of his work on it, Fabian Nzinga, who is the co-writer of X-Force, which if you don't know is basically the extreme and grim revamp of Marvel's teenage heroes, the New Mutants. Mutants with more guns and a bit of the good old ultra-violence. It's been reworked in modern times to be more of a Black Ops to the X-Men, all the better for it. But yeah, Fabian Nzinga, once Liefeld left, have found Image and make several, many tons, a metric pile of bullshit comics. Fabian ironed out the character and hinted that he and Julia were attracted to each other. Though the personality I like, and the one that got more life, is all on PAD. Shatterstar, as he is now and as he should be forever, is a fun-loving, swashbuckling superhero. If you're a Doctor Who or Torchwood fan, and this is a comparison Peter David made himself, but it's just perfect. He's basically Captain Jack Harkness with a sword, with a bit of Abed mixed in there, because he basically absorbs culture through television. Shatterstar comes from Mojo World. Mojo is one of the X-Men's weird... I'm not even going to say one of the weirdest. While Jamie Braddock, who's a man in his underwear, who's Psylocke and Captain Britain's brother, is pretty weird. The fat guy who goes around on a spider mech and rules over a dimension where television and rules everything. Everyone is on a program, and violence is the order of the day, and acts like a slimy television producer / backhanded take that towards Chris Claremont and detractors, at least in the early days. Yeah, he's the weirdest. Love him, though. So growing up in that environment, he's showy, he's flashy, he's good with a sword, and he once kicked the Thing's ass. And I fucking love the Thing, but damn, that's just... damn. While quoting Gladiator, if that doesn't make you love a character, I do not know why you are here. It's only going to get weirder from here on out. But he's also just honest in who he is. He likes both men and women. He's fun-loving. And he truly cares for his partner, Julio. I went more into their relationship, but it's a good one, and it's one that's lasted. And thankfully, Shatterstar has come back recently, both in a Liefeld, who I explained, as I said in the last video, and the reason I hate his ass, yes, besides the fact he can't draw yet gets work, wanted to make Shatterstar ungay next time he got his hands on him, and thankfully the story's a flashback, so he doesn't get a chance to attempt that. And with a more tolerant Marvel, I'd thank God he never will. And more recently in last week's comics, along with Julio, who has a terrible mustache. I mean, not everyone can pull off perfection like this. Or, mild competence. Tomato, tomato. But it's hilarious. Google it, please. You'll have yourself a laugh. And while you do that, I'm moving on to the next one. Shatterstar. He's made of goddamn awesome. Next up, Wallace Wells. One of the first gay comics characters I was ever really exposed to. I mean, technically Iceman, but that's a recent development. And I do like it. It fits with Bobby's character and a serial womanizer. My only issue with it is they didn't make him bi. When they could have easily made him that. That just basically because they wanted thought it just sends the message to me. I think bi's discount gay, not helped by Brian Michael Bendis, the one who had both versions of Bobby come out. Yeah, there's a version of it. There's a group of X-Men who were sent, brought from the past. It's a whole thing, and yeah, it's as complicated as it sounds. Though to various comics credits, there have been many jokes pointed at just how ridiculous that is. And there's also the latest run with them is really good. But yeah, the way Bendis made Bobby he come out was just awful with Jean, with like him saying, "What if I like both?" Jean Grey, and like basically the young Jean Grey made him, basically went into his head without his permission and confronted him about the fact he's hitting on women even though he's gay. And then when he tries to say bye, she says, "Well, everyone's that." Jean, hi, fuck you. And we'll get to that more when I review All New X-Men and that entire mess at some point. But what were we talking about? Oh yeah, Wallace Wells from Scott Pilgrim. And I'm sure a lot of you have seen the movie. If you haven't read the comics, please do. Well, I haven't reread them in whole in a while. I love them. I grew up with them in high school. I got the last 3 volumes as they came out. And fondly remember both pre-ordering it on Amazon and having to wait month after month after month for it to actually come out, for Volume 4 to come out, as the release date kept slipping until it finally did. Wallace is the gay best friend in the story. And while, yeah, he has the old sitcom cliche role of being the sage giver of advice, it's in a much more realistic way. He's the lead character and Human in Disaster, or Scott Pilgrim's best friend, and doesn't take any of his shit. They also sleep in the same bed, but since Scott's pretty much the only character in the story who's not some shade of gay outside of his sister and one other character, and that's not an exaggeration. Oh, and then on a few others, but like out of his social circle, it's gay as fuck by the end. But I'm getting off topic, and that's not at all a bad thing. The gay part, not the Wallace part. But since I don't want this video to be 1,000 years long, Wallace basically gives Scott advice, trains him for his fights against his possible girlfriend's 7 evil ex-boyfriends. And yeah, the comic is basically him going on a video game beat-em-up style quest where he has to beat up 7 evil assholes his ex dated while both of them grow as people. Or I mean his girlfriend. I am just not on point today. The point, this is probably going to be a 2-parter. But anyway, Wallace. Wallace is just a great character. He's fucking hilarious. He's well written, but the thing that keeps him from being a cliche is, despite having some traits that people classify as a gay stereotype, like being the gay like best friend and having lots and lots of sex, the narrative never treats him bad for any of this. He likes sex. So what? So does our dumbass yet incredibly lovable protagonist. He also gets drunk as fuck and fuck to a hilarious degree. He's just incredibly charming and charismatic and an incredibly fun character. Or who deserves to be on this list. He's sardonic, but he's also willing to call everyone out on their bullshit, and despite being drunk half the time, is probably the only character in the cast who actually has their shit together on any conceivable level before the final buck. Not joking. I mean, other characters may be a bit more ahead of Scott, but Wallace has a white-collar job, a good amount of money to the point he owns everything in his and Scott's shared apartment for the first few books before really 4/3 of the first 4 books of the series. He's just awesome. He's a great character, fun to have around, and responsible for a good chunk of the series' best moments. Before I move on and start winding this video up with our last 2 of the first half of the list, one of my favorite moments when he's just heckling the shit out of people in the first volume. Don't get me wrong, he still gets great stuff in the other 5. It's just in this one he basically drunk off his ass. And when the band proudly announced they're crashing the boys, and have an 8-year-old drummer. This comic has one of the great jokes, and we'll, like a lot of things on this list, we'll get a full review. It says, "Is the girl boy?" "Yes." And then when they say, "The next song is called 'We Hate You, Please Die.' It's dedicated to that asshole in the front balcony." He's like, "Cool, I wrote a song about me." He's just a funny motherfucker and deserves to be on this list. Next is Chris from Harbinger. I'll talk more about Valiant, but I gotta say, nice. Seriously, one of the reasons I got Comixology Unlimited as soon as I did was just looking into the Valiant comics. They seemed interesting and are one of the few other superhero universes out there. I mean, IDW's trying to make one, but just stop, please. Or at least don't make the Transformers the whole center of it when they've had a dedicated universe for 5 or 6 years at this point, probably longer, while the rest of these are just things you're shoving the fuck in to try and make your own shared universe. Just please stop. Please. That aside, though I will say the comics in it do look good, and I will read Rom at some point, Valiant's universe is really well written. Most books I've read from it so far are really good. When I read the Valiant's decent, but probably needed more than 4 issues for what they were going for, and the big hype thing about it that has everyone in the Valiant universe wasn't really there. I mean, don't get me wrong, the characters they brought in all had great moments when the big bad of the story gives everyone a fear virus and stuff, but I'm not here to talk about the Valiant. Chris, whose last name escapes me, he was a childhood friend of one Peter Stanichek. Peter's ostensibly the main character of Harbinger, and is a Psyot, which is basically the Valiant universe version of a mutant. And they also did their own reboot, but unlike DC, it was because their continuity hadn't existed in a while and they wanted to come back, rather than, we're just rebooting because our sales are low and this is going to send them right in the shitter. God, I'm thankful for Rebirth. But again, I'm getting off topic, and this video is almost a half hour long at this point. So yeah, Chris is an awesome character. Witty, smart, and the leader of the Harbinger team. As I said, Chris is child friends with Peter Stanachek, who's a Psyot, and his power is that he's basically Charles Xavier rather than Washington. Only in this unit, and Peter did a bad thing. Basically, he got hung up on Chris because they used to be friends. She told him to go away, and in a moment of desperation, he used his powers to make her fall in love with him. When he took her out, she naturally wanted to chop his balls off and watch him slowly bleed out. Months later, after the trauma of that, dealing with that, befriending Peter's junkie best friend, she runs into Peter again after he escapes local evil billionaire / evil version of Charles Xavier, Toyo Harada. Oh, I almost said Toro. Ole. Shut up, Spanish Spider-Man fellow. And basically just wants him to die. And so does he, feeling immense guilt for what he's done, as well as the fact that getting caught up with Harada ended up with that guy, that friend of theirs, dead. But with some prompting from Faith, another Psyot who rescued Peter and he returned the favor, or rescuing by helping them both escape Harada, who's an awesome character in her own right. When I review Harbinger, I'll get into her more. She realizes something. Yeah, Peter's an asshole. She doesn't have to like him. But why just let him die when he can beat Harada? When Harada's fucking with her life now that she's been in contact with Peter again. As she puts it, what if God had to be taught to be a good person? Harbinger's an amazing comic, and I will get more, but she's the leader of the team. She's their Professor Xavier. Well, Peter may be the one that everyone gravitates around, and due to the way powers work in the universe, the only two ways to activate a Psyot being either to do a dangerous drill thing on their heads that could kill them if they're not a potential Psyot, which is very rare, or have Peter's thing where he can sense it, and which is a new ability. And getting to Harbinger more in its own review. But Chris is truly amazing. She's fun, she can be hilarious, flippant, but she's also just her own character through and through, trying to do its best for these people while staying one step ahead of a bunch of assholes trying to make the world better by conquering it. 'Cause that always works. Chris, and towards the end of the series, it's revealed she's a lesbian. Currently in the universe, after a lot of shit went down and our heroes became public, as well as our villains, more on that at a future date, she ends up back in charge of the team anyway, and contacting Peter after he goes into hermetic retreat after all the shit that went down at the end of Harbinger and its follow-up and its epilogue miniseries. Even though she's grown to at least tolerate him more than hate him, and realizes he's dangerous, but the world needs him for reasons, has a really good relationship with a woman by this point, who eventually, despite not exactly liking Peter for damn obvious reasons, accepts that the world needs him and that even if it puts her in legal danger, again, I'll get to it. Chris is a great character, and I've rambled enough. So to wrap up this video, number 5. Leslie Bean from 2 different universes. Though primarily the more shaped one that's currently in circulation, but both of them combined are on this list. It's complicated. And we will get to her next time. This video's already 30 minutes long. I'm looking down and I'm at the little timer here and I'm just seeing it's big. So next time, Leslie and 4 others. Who are my top 4? 5, well, you can probably look in the tags of the next video. That's next time. Leave a comment. Don't forget to like and subscribe and come back for the final part. And follow my sister channels at Titan King O'Kenneth, Blazing Talon Games, and my other channel, which I'm a happy part of, is an Average 90s Gamer. And I will see you next time.